Hey guys, this is Colin with Mandrino Motorsports and welcome back to the channel. I'll say it early in this video, make sure to like and subscribe. This week we're working on the VRod. This weekend, so it might be next week's video or the week after. I'm not kind of sure yet on scheduling. I will be taking this to the track. This will be my first time at the track. This will be, well, I've been to the track but I've never raced. So this will be my first time racing a motorcycle. The first time that I know of that this bike is going to the track, and I'm pretty excited about it. This bike was built for drag racing. I spent about 2 years using it for its unintended purpose, which is touring, cruising, long distance rides. My wife got sick of it, and that's part of the reason we have the Road Glide now. But that being said, that gives us the perfect opportunity to modify this bike for that purpose. Y'all have already seen that with the slipper clutch going in, the billet clutch basket. I was having really bad nightmares of the clutch basket just exploding. The factory clutch baskets on this bike are known to just shear, explode, crack, fill the oil pan and the transmission with pieces of cast aluminum. If I was spending that time and effort putting a clutch in, I was definitely going to spring to go ahead and do that work as well. The reason why I say this bike was built for drag racing is there are very key features that this bike has that are more geared toward performance. When this bike was designed by Willie G and the other designers and engineers at Harley-Davidson, a big key thing with it was its looks, but also its functionality. So there were times where Willie G would design this bike, and essentially the engineers would come back and say, no, it cannot be this way. And he would say, yeah, it's going to be that way. And that's how they made it all the way to this. The VRod nomenclature is a VRSC, which is kind of like the model. Those familiar with Harleys, your Road Glides, or most of the time you like your FLHs. I could be totally wrong on that, but I know that there's a nomenclature that follows the bike. So for V-Rods, you'd have like your early ones are the VRSCAs. They'll typically have smaller motors, like the 1130 cc's. That's your first generation. And they always came with pewter frames. This one, like we talked about in the past, is a VRSC SE. So it's their Screaming Eagle, the performance, the Stage 4 motor. Like this was the big bad designed to race. The one caveat to that is there was actually a production race bike, not unlike a Hellcat in 2005, that was the VRod Destroyer that was not street legal. It'd be the same now as the Hayabusa track one, but it's not street legal, the new supercharged one. So it has steel braided brake lines, hard lines pretty much everywhere else. It's got the wider engine like we've talked about, the separation so that it can rev. It is designed to race. That being said, I've done some things to take some of the race out of it, and I've done other things to add race to it. One of the big things that kind of takes a little bit of the race out of it is the saddlebags. So y'all have asked me a ton of questions on that. I've addressed that, but I also wanted to take this opportunity while I'm removing the saddlebags to kind of show you that these are the Saddlemen Jumbos that I had on my last bike, but this is the bracket, or half of the bracket from VRod baggers. So I modified the bag to bolt to the bracket, and then the bracket itself, which honestly really nice quality with the welds, comes unfinished. You can paint it whatever color you want, powder coat it. These will eventually get powder coated, but at the time I was so excited to put them on the bike, I didn't care, hit them with a quick coat of spray paint, threw them on the bike. So they bolt to the bag, then they bolt to the bracket that bolts to the bike, which I'll show that when I go to take the bag off. Obviously I already have one off. So drag racing, like a lot of things, it comes best with preparation. So most of this video is going to be centered around the preparation of this bike. Doing the checking the oil. I changed the spark plugs not that long ago, so I'm not too worried about them. At the track we may pull them and read them to make sure it's not eating itself alive. Adjusting suspension. These bikes came with adjustable suspension. You can adjust the preload on it. You want enough squat to gain traction, but not so much squat that it won't hook. So I'm going to back that off all the way to give me a good starting point. I will check the tires before it gets to the track. I'm gonna spanner check it or just check to make sure everything's tight. The torque, to torque spec beforehand, and check the oil. As you can see, it's already on the stand. I'll also visibly check for leaks and a couple other odds and ends, nothing too crazy. So the idea is that we're going to prep the bike really well so that it goes out and performs really well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to get this other bag off. We're going to check the oil and just make sure everything's good to go. Alright guys, so like I mentioned, we're going to take the saddlebags off. I'll be able to show you the other side of the bracket. We're doing this so that if I do lay the bike over, it doesn't destroy the bags. Makes it more aerodynamic. It's obviously a very sleek bike, but these add bulk. This is all surface area that's going to be fighting me. On top of that, because of the exhaust I have, trying to adjust suspension makes it really kind of hard to get in there when your suspension adjustment's here and you don't have enough room to do anything. It's already a bear with the exhaust. We don't need the bag in the way. So with this VRod bagger kit, I've got two 9/16 bolts that bolt the two brackets together. So I will go ahead and remove them. You bring me that magnetic tray. Oh, never mind, I can reach it. Alright, so this is the other side of that bracket. It bolts in the factory mounting spots for a saddlebag on the VRod. But like I said, VRod, can you see this okay? VRod brackets are, like I said, VRod brackets are very hard to find. So VRod bagger, again, awesome guys that run that, can't say enough positive things about them. Provided me with, which he actually worked out a deal with me because I had some parts he wanted, and I sent the parts I had, and he sent me one of his kits. So I'm not paid by them. I just really, really, really appreciate the product. And like I said in previous videos, these brackets can actually be used to adapt the same bags that are on the Road Glide to these bikes. That wasn't the style I wanted to go with on this. I wanted it a little slimmer, a little cleaner and smaller, and I wanted them to be easily removable. So bolts in two spots here rather than having all the extra bracketry and the wrap around the plate that the factory ones have. Honestly, very, very rigid. This bike's on a stand right now. I'm wiggling the bike on the stand before it actually flexes. So the way these bikes are constructed, it's layer on layer on layer. So it is very, very solid construction, very awesome product, and super easy to install. If y'all have an interest in that install, I will take the time to pull this back apart and show y'all how the brackets mount up. All right, so the next step we're gonna do is adjust the preload on the shocks. So when you're drag racing, you want the back end to squat so that it can transfer that momentum and send it down the track. That's why you see like the VRod Destroyers and other drag bikes will have wheelie bars, things like that. I don't have enough tire and I don't make enough power for a wheelie bar to be necessary. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back my shocks out essentially to the minimum amount of preload. That means I'll have less resistance when this tries to compress. And so when it compresses, that should squat the rear end of the bike and possibly raise the front end of the bike. So we might see wheelies. I highly doubt it, but that would be kind of cool. And so with a Harley, it's super, super easy. You have these holes and a little spanner wrench, and you just simply turn it. So now it's on preload 2. And if I go one more, we're on preload 1. So if you notice, whenever I turn that shock body, this actually dropped down a little bit, and it took some of the spring tension off, which makes this whole shock assembly softer, which should allow the bike to travel in the rear. The caveat to that is if it travels too far, things can interfere, things can hit, it can stop the tire. It could actually cause you to lose time in your run and on your 60-foot. I'm not so necessarily worried about the 60-foot on this, being as it is my first time racing, but I'm going to take any little bit that will help. All right, guys. So obviously different day, different clothes, but I just wanted to finish the video on this for the prep for this. So I wanted to prep a couple things. Now that we've also gotten the bags off, the suspension set, and I've checked the oil off camera, and just kind of checked over the bike, made sure there was nothing loose or nothing crazy. But that's half the battle. Sometimes it's anticipating things that can go bad, things that are missing, things that fail, and always keeping extra fluids is a good plan as well. So here I've got my bucket. I'm going to take a couple things with me that I think I may need, starting with some motor oil, brand new jug in case I need it. Sometimes these breathers fail. I've replaced the breathers, but there's a chance that I could have a leak or something like that. Or if it pops something loose and drains oil, I'm done racing. So I've got some oil. With it being liquid cooled, I've got a little jug of coolant for the VRod. Just in case it pukes or anything crazy or I notice a leak. We fixed a leak a couple weeks ago. Could come back. They are older hoses, so this is also a good thing to have. When you're checking your fluids, you want to make sure you've got some sort of paper towel. So I've got paper towels. I'm bringing my 3/8 fuel ratchet just in case. I keep sockets in the truck, so I'm not so worried on the socket front, but having power tools makes things that much easier. I'm bringing some electrical tape in case I got to tape something up or check some wires. A tire pressure gauge for setting my pressure for traction. If I need it, we'll see how that goes. I'm not really sure what to expect out of this tire yet. I do carry sockets in the truck, but I don't carry extensions and I don't carry a ratchet. So these are going to be nice things to have just in case. Hopefully won't have to use them, but I'd rather have them and not need them than need them and not have them. With the sun setting when it does, having my Milwaukee neck light is going to be a nice addition in case I need to see something. Sometimes parking lots aren't overly well lit, as well as my little pen light. And then I'm also bringing the wrenches that I had talked about in my last video. That way I have my ratchet wrenches if the sockets and the impacts are not going to get me. And here's that other set. And then the last thing I forgot to grab to add to my bucket. Since we set the suspension, we know about where it is. I don't know how it's going to perform, but I'm going to go ahead and bring the spanner wrench for the suspension. Just like that, I got a bucket full of tools. I'll have a tire inflator there. I'm going to end up buying a gas can and bringing gas with me with that little 3-gallon tank. I don't know how long that's going to last me. Better be prepared. Race fuel is expensive, so I would much rather buy pump gas and run it off pump gas. Other than that, that's really kind of it for it. We'll be drag racing tomorrow. I know this video is a late upload, but it's been a really busy week. So should have some exciting content, some shorts coming out with the VRod actually doing what it was intended to do. So with that being said, make sure to subscribe. I know I said that earlier, but it doesn't hurt to say it a second time. Subscribe, like this video, and let me know what you think the VRod's going to run in the quarter mile. It'll be interesting. It should run an 11.5, but I'm not confident that I can do an 11.5. It's still some learning on my part before I know truly what this bike is capable of. But throw your guess out. What do you think I personally am going to run? So I'll catch y'all on the next one.